Good morning, guys. It's your boy Sam here with Ripping the Boards, where we talk all things NASCAR. I'm really trying to get into making more videos. Sorry, I've been keeping you guys hanging. I know that a few of you guys been looking forward to watching some of my videos, so I need to make some more videos. So let's get right into the episode today. Today we'll be just updating on a few NASCAR breaking news and announcements that have happened since the off week for the Cup Series. But the other two series, the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series, were in effect this weekend. When we returned to the Rockingham Speedway, known as the North Carolina Speedway, but everyone knows it as the Rockingham. I didn't really get to see the actual races. I got to see most of the highlights from all the races, and I must say, the Truck Series race, it looked like it didn't disappoint. Of course, you got some more inexperienced drivers there, and sometimes that makes for more interesting racing and more fun racing, but I always love it when a race comes down to being able to finish in the green, nice long green flag run. It looked like the longer that the race went on, that the groove's starting to widen out, man. I love it. I'm like, why did we ever leave the Rock? I really had to get a deep dive into why we even left the Rock for the first place. But yeah, like the truck race, great. I came back and I saw the Xfinity Series highlights the very next day, and 15 cautions, in a 250 lap race. That means we had more than a quarter of the race, maybe like close to a third of the race, under yellow. So that means on average you had 2 green flag laps and then you had 1 caution lap. I don't care what anybody has to say. Even if it was a long green flag run to start the race and you just had to rash the cautions at the end, I can never say, oh, it was a good race with that many cautions and that few laps. It's just doesn't happen. Like even at a Talladega Super Speedway, where we're going this weekend, which I'll get to talking about in a second, you never see that many cautions, and if you did, you just be like, what are we doing here? So kind of disappointed with the Xfinity guys, but it's kind of interesting that we already go back to the Rock in the Xfinity Series, and we had a DNQ. When was the last time we had a DNQ at a track that wasn't a super speedway? I'm trying to figure that out. It's been a while, and I'm like, okay. People really wanted to show up to this race, which, is great. And I'm thinking the Rock is like just that little niche between short track and intermediate. Only thing that I would say of why we shouldn't go back to the Rock, which I think we should, but only reason I would say that we shouldn't is because it's another racetrack in the Southeast region, especially in North Carolina itself, NASCAR's home base. And we already just got North Wilkesboro back. And it's not like how it was in the 90s where NASCAR was still mainly a southeastern sport. NASCAR is now a almost global sport, I would say. So I really hope it's not a step back if we decide to go back there with all 3 series, but from what I'm seeing, I'm excited to like if we can get things cleaned up as far as racing wise, we can have a very good product going on there. Like maybe we could just take the track and move it somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, it was a great race on Friday, and it was a interesting finish to the race on Saturday, I must say. I'm gonna have to actually go back and watch both of them so I can give you guys a better update of what I think. But yeah, right at the top of the dome. And I know I'm a few days late, almost to the next race weekend, but that's what I got. Cup Series guys were off this week, but we still had a lot of Cup Series news. I believe just yesterday, it was announced that Spire Motorsports and Rodney Childers have parted ways effective immediately, which is really interesting because we have 9 point sprint races and 10 races overall with 1 exhibition, the clash at the beginning of the season. Judging from the language used in both of the announcements from Rodney and the team, respectively, it almost seems like it was proposed by the team, and Rodney could either agree or, or probably just wasn't given a choice. Kind of seems like there's a lot of changes going on at Spire. Some good. I mean, I wouldn't say that Rodney Childers has been lighting the world on fire, but especially since his last big win season back in 2020. He had a couple wins with Kevin Harvick in 2022, but after 2020 and how that championship run ended, so abruptly at Martinsville, it just seems like he and Kevin Harvick were a step off. And then even last season when he was working with Josh Berry, we were kind of wondering, is it the car or is it Rodney that was putting in all that work, that was turning up on the track? And sometimes you have to have a legendary pairing break apart to see more of who did who. Like you have Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. On the NASCAR side, you have like Chad Knaus, Jimmy Johnson. Chad Knaus was able to win another race after he left the team, and after he left Jimmy, but Jimmy was never able to win again. So, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. I believe Jimmy Johnson's 2017 Pocono crash really left a lasting mark on him, and he just has never been the same ever since. And it's been almost 8 years already. Jeez. Crazy. But we got off topic. Yeah. So, from what I'm seeing, reading both of the statements, it seems like the team gave Rodney Childers the boot, which is kind of sad. He's one of the better crew chiefs in the garage. He has a championship. Yes, it was over a decade ago, but still, championship pedigree. You don't just lose it overnight. So, sorry to see such a promising, what seemed to be promising pairing to go underwater. Hope that finally Justin Haley can finally get a little bit of stability in his Cup Series career. He's had a lot of movement. He's had a lot of changes. Just really hope that he could find a way to settle in, because I really think that Justin Haley, he's got the stuff. It just needs to be able to spread his wings. Then, next we also got competition rules for the All-Star race. So, I think most of the rules, it's going to be straightforward like the last couple of years. Instead of 200 laps, we're getting 250 laps this time, so a little bit longer event. With the competition caution coming at lap 100 as usual for the last 2 years. But this year, NASCAR is deciding to have a promoter caution. So anytime after 220, whatever NASCAR sees fit or the promoter sees fit to throw a caution on that random lap, that's what it'll be. First thought I had was like, oh, it's like what NASCAR does every week. They just decide to throw caution whenever, And if you've watched my channel, you've heard my gripes about NASCAR throwing cautions all willy-nilly. It's literally race manipulation and revisionist history, because there have been so many outcomes that should have happened or should not have happened because of cautions being thrown at just the right time, So I, for one, I don't like cautions. I think less cautions will always be better. It gives you a truer, much better view of the picture of the story. Yes, you're gonna have incidents. Yes, you're gonna have people losing control. But I'd rather have a snoozer. I'd rather have a snoozer where there was only a couple cautions or no cautions at all than a banger, quote unquote, that has a million cautions. I'm sorry. Call me a purist. I don't care. I enjoy racing, who's really the fastest? Who really has what? And if, the only time you're stopping is with pit stops and you see, oh, you have your comers and your goers that way, I feel like it's a lot more natural than, oh, we got to get a caution to get it caught up. And then, yeah, it happens. It happens. It's racing. Racing is the most unpredictable sport in the world. And I will fight tooth and nail with anybody. With that saying. Racing is the most unpredictable sport in the world. Especially motorsports. And yeah, it's hard to win just one of them. So if you have, even two or more, you've done something, man. You were able to do something that most other people in the world can't do. So be proud of yourself for that. And yeah, but yeah, I think it's just going more down the road of entertainment based when we should be more competition based. This is what allowed NASCAR to blow up in the early 90s, early 2000s. We were more competition based. Yes, the Jays had just come around in the mid 2000s, like 2004 is when it started, but it didn't really become like super entertainment based until we had stuff like the wild card, and then later on we went full on stick and ball sport mode and adding a playoff, like literally calling it a playoff and having actual eliminations and everything. Oh boy. I mean, you're gonna have eliminations if you have a chase anyways, because not everybody can race for a championship. But you have rounds, and then, in the playoffs, you have rounds, and you have people getting eliminated within the rounds. So I'm never going to agree with the playoff format. And the quicker we get away from it, the better. Seems like next year we'll have that change, hopefully. But you never know with this sport. Love it to death, but sometimes it really kills me, man. Yeah, so we're going to have a competition caution at the promoter's discretion. How much y'all want to bet that we get a repeat of 2022 when Ryan Blaney was literally feet away from taking the checkered flag at Texas, only to have the laziest of brushing of the wall to bring in a caution? Guy touches the wall like way off, way in the back, not even interfering with anyone. And they're like, oh my God, we gotta throw the caution for that. Literally, Ryan Blaney had his driver's side window net down. Had to pull it up. We had to run extra caution laps to pull it up. It was a mess. It was such a mess. Oh man. It was such a mess. But yeah. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up 2022 NASCAR All-Star Race at Texas, and you'll see what I'm talking about. That was a mess. But yeah, let's move on. So we have Talladega this week. Yay! But for the first time, I could say in my life, even though, yes, we've had bad super speedway racing for the last 3 years in a row with the next gen car, we had really good super speedway racing before we started using the Gen 7 car. But I've been starting to get less and less excited as I see more of the racing. It's 2x2 log jam. Nobody can move unless the bottom two lanes start to save fuel, and then the top lane has to run, full throttle around the outside to get somewhere. Looks great for TV, right? No one's going anywhere. Nobody's moving. So I don't understand why. I don't understand why NASCAR does not want NASCAR to grow unless it's on their terms. It really, I could say with the utmost confidence that's exactly what's going on. Because we've seen this car has too much downforce at the super speedways. There's too much downforce at a few different tracks, actually. I, for one, don't think the short track package is as bad as other people would say, but it definitely needs more horsepower, at least. If nothing else changes on the car, we at least need more horsepower. We had 750 in the last 3 years of the Gen 6, and we saw how great the short track racing and the road courses were in that generation of car. We dropped it down to 670 now that we had the next gen. We have wider tires, we have larger brakes. It means more grip, more control, and we have less horsepower. I'm not sure what the idea was with that. Up the horsepower. If nothing else, up the horsepower. At least back to 750. We already have Doug Yates and Doug Yates saying, "Oh, it's not gonna be a big deal." You just gotta tweak a couple things, add a couple parts, take a couple parts off. $750. Boom. We could do that. But on the other hand, because we have the engine that we have, and NASCAR wants to have everything uniform now, we have 670 at the super speedways. But that's not good. Super speedways are where you want less horsepower. You want about, what, 400, 350, 400? That means you can run a much smaller spoiler and maybe even a lot smaller diffuser in the rear, on the bottom of the car. Because as it stands right now, yes, the last 3 years or so of the Gen 6 car, we had a massive spoiler on the car. Yes, but we did not have a diffuser. So it's just adding a lot more downforce, which in turn will start to bog the cars down if they don't have someone tucked right up underneath them, you know? And so this is why we have a lot less people making, you know, those daredevil moves that we got used to seeing, unless they got a whole gang behind them. Because you can't do anything unless you got a gang behind you now. I implore you guys, look at Talladega racing, or even Daytona, but especially Talladega. Look at Talladega, I'd say 2010 and back, and then look at it 2012 to 2021. Look at how different it is compared to the last 3 years. Don't look at 2011. Don't do that. But look at those years that I told you guys to look at. Look at how different the product is now compared to then. We've got to do something. We have to reduce the horsepower at the plate tracks. I've been calling them plate tracks for my whole life. They're super speedway tracks, taper spacers, whatever. We got to reduce the horsepower there so we could take away a lot of that downforce, because that's what's holding these cars down. And also, it doesn't help with saving fuel either, you know? So, yeah, if NASCAR's so worried about saving fuel, maybe let's not do this. But yeah, that's it for me today. Hope you guys made it to the end of the video. If you did, give me a like, comment, subscribe, and you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Let's Talk _NASCAR. That's Let's Talk _NASCAR on Instagram and Twitter. It's your boy Sam, whipping the boards. Catch you next time.